large projects like this, it's certainly not unheard of. And as long as they don't do anything structurally.
In reality, they wouldn't have to even give a certificate, you know, a building permit for this kind of work.
Right.
You know, when people are building new homes, they start digging, they start moving, they start doing stuff on their lot before they get their permit. When they get their permit, then they can start putting footings in and stuff. So this is the same thing, but
Just a
we
bigger
went
scale.
ahead, yeah, it's a much bigger scope, but we went ahead and had CMS do a permit for the site setup and the soil work only, but in reality, they wouldn't even have legally had to do that.
We started digging at the fertilizer plant last fall, or, you know, before we got the permit back.
Sure.
He said go ahead and,
You do run a little risk in case you did something, but in this case, as Kathy's pointed out, we asked them to actually issue documentation stating that they can start digging, which they did. So that's, you know, again, we're very mindful of the concern about the project and all the eyes and ears that are, you know, monitoring that. And so we're trying to stay in front of it and make sure that it's all being done the way it's supposed to be done. In this case, we erred even more on the side of having it done with permits.
Okay.
good to go?
Do we need an action?
No, it was brought up as a question.
Okay.
Reports, updates, and miscellaneous.
As council may recall, John Stewart and Bill Chang have been our water, wastewater engineers for quite a while. I forget the original company they worked for, but it was bought out by BDM Engineering. They're up in St. Paul. Bill Chang has since left the company or is working out of the country in Guam, I believe, and is not scheduled to come back. John Stewart is basically either semi-retired or retired at this point. And so Roger and I thought this might be a good chance for us to move the water wastewater engineering to Bolton and Mink, because again, they're a full service company. It's a very much relationship driven, and we don't have any pending big projects that we're aware of right now, and so it might be a good time to transition over rather than start a new relationship with somebody else up in St. Paul with BDM. So we would recommend moving water, wastewater in-house with our city engineer.
So any information that Bill Chang has or John Stewart has, they would be transferred to
Yes.
Bolton Inc.
And we've already asked, this started actually a couple of weeks ago because we wanted Brian Malm to have access to that water system model that they showed on the monitors a couple years ago. And so through that process of doing that, we found out that some things are changing at BDM, and it might make sense to just bring everything over in-house in water and wastewater.
You know, we only worked with, well, it was, BDM was the original name, and they were bought out by MSA.
Oh, MSA, that's right,
Yeah,
the one
and-
out of Toronto?
And so we've only worked with one other guy out of MSA, and that was Mark Lundgren,
Lundgren.
who came here for our water rate
Right.
study. So we don't really have much history with anybody at MSA with those two guys gone, you know.
They did a lot of work here, as, you know, the flood, the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. You know, we'll miss their expertise and their knowledge of our system, but it's time to start moving that stuff over because they're not gonna be here.
I think it makes sense to have it with one, because you can create some, we're not having duplication of effort to.
Right. We're still gonna have, Bolton and Mink has a separate, it won't be Brian, he'll be our point of contact, but they have a separate water wastewater firm We're still gonna keep our airport stuff, for now, with a different firm, and, most of our levy stuff is still being done through bar engineering, so we won't necessarily change those anytime soon. But it just seems to make sense to pull the water and wastewater over. And if there's no other questions, we did finish up mostly the Grove Street project today. So, we dug it out, insulated the water main, the water lines, and, they were supposed to only put one lift of asphalt in, but they actually did both today. So, we wanted to have it so if there was any settlement over the winter, I called Brian, was unsure why that happened, but apparently the contractor got in there sooner than we had expected him to. Armor. And Armor Asphalt tomorrow is gonna be doing the crack sealing project for this year, mostly up Pine Meadows in the north end of the city. I'll be doing that.
Okay.
Will there be a third lift in the spring?
No, they did both lifts.
So 2 houses involved, or were there
Three.
3? Didn't Fine, or whoever lives on the end house, right across from the school, didn't hers freeze at one time?
I think,
No?
She goes out to 43. And the three
got
houses,
water
2 of them
from
were
her.
really close together though.
very
weren't they?
close, yep,
Yeah.
it was basically a joint trench. It was in fact,
Only 2. So are they, what, 2 inches of the styrofoam sheets on top of the water lines?
yes, instead of just one, they stacked 2, because in some spots it was only 4 feet under the,
Man, no
under
wonder.
the surface.
Yeah, I don't understand why that wasn't done when that street was done. That would have been over and done with, lower the water line.
Well,
Or
the main one,
insulated it.
Huh?
Or insulated it. They probably couldn't get it lower
4 inches.
without,
they would have to remove the main. The main
Yeah.
is of 1970. We talked about it when we had it open. I said, why don't we just tap new copper in and run it deeper? And Brian's suggestion was, you don't wanna tap into an existing cast iron main, because oftentimes they break,
And leak.
and they keep breaking as you're trying to chase, he said you chase the break. And so he said his advice was just insulate it and leave it alone. When the main comes out, then you can change the services. The insulation should work. But when they exposed the sewer in that road, that would have been the time to say that the water was one way or the other. So, anyway, they didn't, so we did.